Hi everyone, welcome to the F1 Time Portal, an F1 history podcast started by two Formula One nerds. I'm your host, Rosa.
And I'm your other host, Luigi. And today we're continuing on with the awesome 1954 season with the German Grand Prix. Let's go! Okay, so we're to the British Grand Prix, July 17, 90 laps, and a massive 31 drivers, as usual. Normally it seems to be Britain and Germany where there's a huge gaggle of local one-off drivers that just turn up. Yeah. And it's a 4x3x4 grid formation.
So only two Mercedes cars arrived, two silver cars arrived for Fangio and Kling. Maserati, on the other hand, had 9 cars enter, whilst Ferrari had 3 for Hawthorne, Gonzalez and Trintignant.
Trintignant,
so 9 cars.
Number one driver.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Maserati going with the law of averages. I don't know what they're going for, but they're saying, we just throw everything at this, we might just snag.
Quality over quantity.
Yeah. So when practice started, there was high expectations that Mercedes would dominate again, especially after their easy win in France earlier. However, while Fangio grabbed pole with a lap record of 1 minute 45, actually doing an average speed of 100.35 miles per hour, the Ferraris of Gonzalez and Hawthorne were second and third, followed very closely behind by Moss in the Maserati in fourth. So here's Moss in his recently factory-supported Maserati, again swallowing his British pride.
Yes. So apparently this is the first time the 100 miles per hour barrier was broken.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, isn't it? It's pretty special. 160 kilometres an hour. Yeah.
Yep.
In what was a very streamlined car. Actually, the British Grand Prix, he changed it a little bit, and we'll talk about that in a second. On Saturday, race day, there was a crowd of 90,000 eagerly awaiting the new rivalry and showdown between Ferrari and Mercedes. I don't know if I buy that. I haven't really seen too much of a rivalry between those two. It's like Ferrari won when Mercedes were away, and now that Mercedes are here, they're pretty much got this under control. Yeah,
they won the first race pretty convincingly.
Yeah. I think the writer of this was excited. Ferrari fan, maybe.
Yes.
So what the crowd didn't expect to see was Ascari and Villaraci at the back of the grid. These two were again driving for Maserati due to the Lancia not being ready, and they had arrived too late for practice, and this was what they were resigned in doing. So let me just say very quickly, the French Grand Prix was July 4. The British Grand Prix was July 17. So over to you, Rosa.
Well, this is exactly what happened in 1951, where the BRM just showed up and lined up at the back of the grid on the Sunday.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I just can't. It's just amazing that cars and teams were allowed to do that back then. They didn't even do practice. Nothing.
But what I don't understand is it's basic logistics. Who did this? Like, who said, oh, that's right, the British Grand Prix.
You reckon someone got fired?
Geez, if they didn't get fired. I mean, Ascari was double world champion. He would have been great for ticket sales. So I'm just shocked. It's just unbelievable. Yeah. Anyway, move on from that. So when the flag fell, Gonzalez shot into an immediate lead, followed by his teammate Hawthorne, Fangio and Moss. By lap 5, Gonzalez was clear of Fangio, so maybe this Ferrari Mercedes thing was true, who had passed Hawthorne for second place. The gap between Fangio and Speedy Gonzalez remained static for the next 20 laps.
That's boring. We need some rain.
Yeah, so it seems. In the meantime, the crowd were thrilled to see two British drivers of Hawthorne and the now rising star Moss swapping positions several times until eventually Moss got the better of Hawthorne and started to steadily pull away in his Maserati. In the meantime, Ascari had retired on lap 21. He then took over Villaraci's Maserati, but again he had to retire. So not a race to remember, and we're only mentioning it because it's Ascari.
Still doing better than the time that he went to the 1952 race that we don't ever mention.
You're not meant to mention it, not even insinuate it.
Sorry,
We've done really well. I
sorry.
think our percentage of mentioning it has gone down since the first episode.
Yes.
I think the first episode it may have been maybe 7 or 8% of our time. It's gone down to 3 or 4%. So we should give ourselves a pat on the back.
Letting the team down though. I keep mentioning it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, back at the front, by lap 30, Gonzalez was increasing his lead as Fangio was struggling to judge the corners due to being unable to see the corners of the track and to see the corners of his car because his tyres were covered up by the streamlined aerodynamic structure. So that was very interesting, and apparently there were lots of dents and stuff on the car.
Apparently, wow. Well, that might be a reason banning it, I guess. Like if he was actually driving unsafely, perhaps. Don't know. But anyway, apparently during this race, he was hitting oil drums, which I like to rename as safety drums. We've had safety hay bales. We've had safety hedges. We've now upgraded to safety drums. Hopefully they weren't full of oil, though.
Safety ditches as well.
Yes.
So you did get your wish, though, because first of all, Fangio was having some gearbox problems and at 2/3 race distance, and he had fallen back to 4th place behind Moss and Hawthorn. However, heavy showers started to hit at the end of the race, and Gonzalez was not impacted as he continued on to win by over a minute, and his teammate Hawthorn in second. Unfortunately, Moss retired with 10 laps to go while 26 seconds ahead of Hawthorn due to a rear axle failing. So this left Marimon in the Maserati to finish third, and a very fine third because he started the race in 25th position.
Wow.
So
that is good.
I will pause for a second. A great result by Marimon coming third from 25th. And we'll know why this is something I've pushed up for the next race.
So the World Driver Championship standings is Fangio on 28 and 1/7. Is that because he shared it? I don't understand. Is that because they must have shared something that we didn't pick up, like maybe a fastest lap or something.
1/7. I mean, really.
How ridiculous. Gonzalez on 14 and 9/14. Trintignant on 11. I know. And Hawthorn on 7 and 9/14. I'm going to have to say that for the rest of the pod. My God.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. It's not a good band name. 7 and 9/14. It's not cool.
No,
it's
that's
not cool.
right. No, not at all.
Okay, so we're up to the German Grand Prix. So August the 1st. There were 22 laps in this race. Remember, this is that track that's about 20-ish kilometres. 22 drivers and a 3x2x3 grid formation.
This is the Nürburgring, isn't it, Luigi?
Yeah, the Nürburgring. Yes, I should have said that. Yes.
Yeah. So the race was extended by 3 laps this year to get it to that 500 kilometre race distance, which was kind of like the normal race distance for this era. So they even increased it by 3. I think last year it was 18 laps.
Yeah. And nowadays I think the race distance in the 2020s, which we are, is about 300 kilometres, and it's been like that for as long as I can remember, since the 80s. Yep. From 80s to 2020s, 300 kilometres. So these guys are doing 500 kilometre races in cars where it's all elbows and shoulders and arms. So, yeah, pretty full on. So this is the home of the Mercedes team, the German Grand Prix. And they had just been defeated at Britain because their Streamliner car, despite being awesome, was also difficult to drive when you couldn't see the corners and the corners of your car. So they were keen to return to the top on their home ground track. So they fielded 4 cars, Fangio, Herman, Lang and Kling. Lang was a pre-war star. Now, when I say pre-war star, this is 54. World War II was 39 to 45. So Lang must have been a really young pre-war star because he was 45, about 45 at this race. Interesting. Yeah. So due to the problems with seeing the tyres experienced at Britain, the new Mercedes W196 had the aero removed. So they had resorted back to looking like a normal Formula One single-seater car, but still they had this special space frame chassis, which was very lightweight. So, but it still looked different to the other cars. It was slightly wider, but it was, you could see the tyres, they were fully open like a normal car.
It didn't look like the Batmobile anymore.
Those days are over. Oh, I think the other car did come back though when it was more of a high-speed track, like the Monzas of the world and things like that.
I actually have looked up the other Mercedes W196, and that is also quite a really good-looking car.
It is
still quite.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
I'm not complaining. I'd take either.
No. Yep.
Yeah. So Farina was still out of action. So Taruffi was brought in to support the Ferrari attack. And of interest is that Moss, having impressed a great deal lately, was now receiving, rabbit's ears quotation, factory support from Maserati. And this is the big political thing. And as such, was obliged to paint his car red. Because guess what red means?
Goes faster?
The passion of Italy. So I wonder...
Passion of Italy.
Were all the Italian cars red? Did they all look like Ferraris?
I think they were. I've done a bit of research on this because it's quite interesting. Interested to see because, although...
All the pictures are grayscale, so we can't tell.
They are. I can't really tell. But I do think that the Ferrari and the Alfa both drove in red and the Maseratis are definitely red. So, I think they've all been red. Yeah.
Did they do different shades of red? Surely.
I don't know. I can't find that level of detail. I might have a look. Maybe for one of our future podcasts, we might do like a colour special. But I haven't found it.
Well, I was going to say, for those of you that don't know, we've not even mentioned it. These cars don't have sponsorship on them. They're just as they are.
No, they don't. Yes. Yep. Yeah. They've got a number, I think, but that's about it.
Yeah. So we've got like, in theory, a grid of 20 cars, 12 red, 2 or 3 green and 2 or 3 silver, pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Moss must have been... Yeah, I'm sure Moss would have been a little bit upset because I'm pretty sure he would have driven his Maserati in British Racing Green up to now.
Yeah, this would have been in his mind. This was his first time driving a Maserati.
Yes,
pretty much.
Yes.
Even though he got a podium in the other race. Yeah. So when it came to qualifying time, the record time set by Lang in 1939, remember he was a pre-war star, like a teenager or something, was 9 minutes 52.5, and finally it was beaten by Fangio in this non-streamliner W196 with 9 minutes 50.1.
Wow, so even without the aero, Fangio broke the track record.
Yeah, pretty impressive.
Well.
Yeah,
that is.
So Hawthorne in the Ferrari was the only other driver to get under 10 minutes. Then Moss was third. And the second row was filled by Herman in the Mercedes and Gonzalez in the Ferrari. So unfortunately though, and this is where things are not so happy, towards the end of this session, Marimon, who got third in the last race in the Maserati, had an accident. And unfortunately, he was actually killed during the Grand Prix practice session. This, of course, upset many of the drivers, in particular fellow countryman Gonzalez.
Oh, yes. His teammate Luigi Villarace withdrew from the race, and so did Ken Wharton. So he was entered by Owen Racing, but the third car, Sergio Mantovani, he started the race. I think different drivers got affected in different ways.
Yeah. And unfortunately, Marimon became the first driver to be fatally injured at a Formula One World Championship Grand Prix, excluding the Indy 500. and it was thought that his braking had actually failed, which is really sad.
It's very sad. So we have seen a lot of people die at a Grand Prix, particularly last year at Argentina. So, I mean, that was also very sad. I wonder if that does that not count? I mean, is this what they're saying is the first death?
Yeah, I don't
guess
agree.
It's the first driver death. I don't agree either. No.
Yeah, it's just, I guess, if you want to be specific, but I mean those spectators that passed at Argentina, they're the first.
Yeah. I mean,
they count.
I mean, in this era, Grand Prix racing was as dangerous for the spectators as it was for the drivers, I would say.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Still, if I was to go back in time, I would love to watch these races, but I would be standing way back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially at Argentina.
When we get our actual F1 time portal time machine, Luigi, we'll do that.
We'll do it. And then we'll do the most amazing podcast. The most amazing.
Yeah.
This is like medium.
Yeah.
So on race day, a huge crowd attended. Now, not surprising, being a 22-ish kilometre track, it was estimated to be about 300,000 people attending, which is phenomenal.
Yes, and I'm guessing that there was no fencing here. I'm guessing there were safety hedges again and safety hay bales. I mean,
and safety ditches.
And safety ditches. I mean, it would have been impossible to actually resource safety crews around this track because it was 22.8 kilometres. Yeah,
that's why, and I've mentioned this in other episodes, that's why Jackie Stewart called it green hell, because, you're in big trouble if something went wrong. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So, as the flag fell, Gonzalez in 5th place on the second row stormed into the lead, but by the end of the lap, Fangio and Moss had both passed him. Moss was forced to retire on the second lap with a broken big end.
What is a big end? Sorry. Is that
big
technical speak for something? Or
I'll explain. It's not where the small end is. Okay?
Okay. Luigi, that doesn't help at all.
It's such a weird term. Who knows? Maybe someone will communicate with us and tell us what a big end is, but
yes,
it's a bit broad term, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
It sounds like, do you know what? It sounds like an excuse.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just pushed too hard on the accelerator pedal and broke it. Something like that. Yeah. Anyway, to the race, Kling, who had started from the back of the grid, had stormed all the way up to 5th place, which shows, now don't forget Kling is in that Mercedes, how good that car must have been.
Yes.
I'm not saying Kling was not good, by the way. I'm just saying the combination, Hawthorne retired on lap 4 with rear axle issues. So Kling was now up to 4th place with Lang in the other Mercedes in 3rd. So both Kling and Lang started to haul in Gonzalez, and by lap 7, they'd passed him.
Oh, no. Poor Speedy.
We haven't said Speedy Gonzalez for a while. We've got to bring that back because, he's sad. It's not a good feeling for him.
It is.
Yeah.
Hey.
So just before half distance, Kling took 2nd place and, ignoring pit signals, passed Fangio on lap 15. Now, don't forget, this is only a 20-ish lap race. Yeah.
So he passed the team leader and ignored the pit wall instructions. I guess you're not a race car driver if you settle for 2nd.
Yeah, the interesting thing is I read a report that stated this is the first time a driver broke team instruction. But didn't Ascari do that at the end of 1953?
Absolutely. Yes.
And what about,
yes.
I mean, and I know Fagioli did his mic drop moment when he was told to switch cars, but he did hand his car over. But Ascari definitely did it last season.
Yep, the last race of last season, wasn't it? Where he overtook Hawthorne, his teammate. Yeah.
And the win meant nothing to him, remember? Because he already had maximum points. Yeah.
Exactly, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I suspect a Mercedes fan made that quote, probably trying to make Mercedes look cool.
first team to break team order, first driver to break team orders in the dominant Mercedes.
Yes.
Nah, we don't buy it.
Yeah.
No, it was done by an
No.
Italian driver in an Italian team against other Italian drivers.
That's much more believable.
Yeah, that's a Ferrari thing. Don't pretend you can be emotional German team. That's the Italian team to do. Only Ugolini can make you pull back because his emotion says, nah, we can do this.
Yeah.
So to the race. Kling's glory lasted only one lap. So while he had the lead, he retired, but he still hobbled on until lap 19.
Oh, that's a pity. Would have been good to see what he could do with his attitude, like ignoring team orders and all of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Apparently Fangio said later that he had the measure of Kling. I don't know. Did he?
Oh, absolutely.
Been good to see.
So it was about this time that Gonzalez, when pitting for fuel, was actually switched out with Hawthorn. It was considered that Gonzalez was still in deep shock at the death of his countryman Marimon the day prior, because Gonzalez was Argentinian and Marimon was Argentinian.
Isn't Fangio also Argentinian?
Yeah.
But he was a world champion and he wanted another world championship.
Yeah. He can mourn later.
He was professional. Yes. He knew when to mourn and he knew when to race.
Yeah. Gonzalez, I don't want to say he was soft because he was a human, but sad.
Yeah.
He felt it.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
None of us can understand if we've been in that position. So,
no, exactly.
Yeah. So Hawthorn took over and drove on to finish second. So basically Gonzalez handed over a second place, nearly 2 minutes behind the dominant and non-Marimon loving Fangio.
Oh, come on, that's harsh.
That
he was
was
just
harsh.
very focused. He's very focused.
Yeah, look, he wanted to be champion. And at this stage in 1954, he had only won one championship. So he was just a single world champion. And in the words of Lewis Hamilton, if he'd only won one championship, i.e. the championship he got in 2008 with McLaren, he said he would have considered his career a failure.
Wow. Okay. Well, and also his biggest rival to this point, Ascari, had 2 back-to-back championships.
Correct.
And Ascari's not even racing. So he's probably thinking, make hay where the sun shines here and get on it.
True.
So, yes, he is now, after this race, in the Maserati/Mercedes combination. He's in 36 and a few other bits and pieces. Gonzalez on 17, Trintignant on 15, Hawthorn on 10. So, Hawthorn's up there in 4th place, but he's equal with Kling on 10 as well.
Oh, no, he's got 10 and 9/14. And
he's got 9/14. Sorry, Luigi.
Yeah,
9/14.
That's a big deal. I want to know what that
Makes
is.
all the difference.
I feel like I'm the decimal guy. I don't understand 9/14, but I get that it means more than 0.5. It's like 0.6 something, 0.67.
Yes, probably something like that.
Yeah. So Swiss Grand Prix, August 22. There's 3 races to go for this season. 66 lap race, 19 drivers, and a 3x2x3 grid formation.
So interesting. This was going to be the last F1 race in Switzerland. I'm just going to give you a little teaser. We'll tell you why in future episodes, but pretty much there's not going to be any form of circuit motor racing in Switzerland for nearly 64 years, which is huge. So only in 2015 did Switzerland lift their ban on motor racing, and even that was for electric cars only. So
that's pretty massive.
That's a very interesting, it's a very interesting set of circumstances. So
and if you thought the Marimon story was sad, wait till that story comes. Yeah. We're in a dark era. This ain't the gentleman era as they call it. It's not at all. I don't agree with the gentleman
It's probably the
era.
most dangerous era of GP racing.
There's got to be another term for the 50s, and I think the term we've got to think of is, I don't want to call it daredevil, because they weren't like that. They were very aware of the dangers. There's another term, and we'll work it out as we go through the years. We'll come up with a better term, but I really don't like gentleman area. I think that's painting a picture that's completely false.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So practice for this race was miserable for the 2 days prior. So the most ideal time to start for a decent pace was the start of practice, because apparently there was a lot of bad weather. So Speedy Gonzalez was back on form, and he set the fastest time of 2 minutes 39.5, with Fangio close behind in second, only 0.2 behind. So it really shows how close that is and how much of a good job Gonzalez did. Remember, that Mercedes is an awesome car, and Gonzalez was 0.2 ahead of him. Moss was again driving the Maserati and reached the front row in third place. So Moss on the rise big time. Like, give him a decent car, and he's showing Hawthorn the way a little bit. So race day itself was also a relatively dull affair in terms of weather. So as the flag fell, Fangio charged into the lead with Gonzalez and Moss in pursuit. By lap 3, Moss passed Gonzalez to take second, but couldn't make much of an impact on Fangio in the lead. By lap 10, Fangio's lead had stretched to 9 seconds. Just like modern day Formula One, like typical Verstappen sort of thing. And that's probably Verstappen taking it easy, just trying to get out of DRS zone or something. In the meantime, by lap 16, Hawthorn, who had qualified 6th, had charged his way up the field and actually passed both Gonzalez, his teammate, and Moss to take second place. Unfortunately, this was all for naught, as on lap 23, he had to pit with a sticking throttle, and later he retired on lap 31 with a fuel pump failure. Moss had also retired around this time as well. So with Fangio serenely in the lead, attention turned to Kling in the Mercedes, who had qualified 5th and now sat in 3rd, but he also retired on lap 39. So by this stage, there were only 8 cars in the race. A bit of a boring race, to be honest, which is why I'm doing more of the talking, maybe. These last 8 cars... Yeah, I know. These last 8 cars monotonously lapped, holding position, with Fangio winning by nearly a minute from Gonzalez in second.
Wow, a real race of attrition.
Yeah.
Maybe it's better that we don't race in Switzerland.
Good farewell.
So, yes, the World Driver Championship standings are Fangio on 42, Gonzalez on 23 and 9/14. I think I worked that out, Louis. It's 0.64.
Oh, 0.67 was close. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very close. Trintignant on 15, Hawthorn on 10.64, and Kling on 10.
Yeah.
And interestingly, the Drivers' Championship was decided at this race. Gonzalez needed to win in the Ferrari to stay in contention to beat Fangio on points, but he finished second. So, yeah, with the rules in place at the time, Gonzalez could not overhaul Fangio's total with 2 races left. So the title went to Fangio for the second time.
Yeah.
And he's the first driver to win races and a championship driving for 2 teams in the one season, which I don't think we'll ever see again.
Well, I'm not sure if it happens in the next 10 years, because this sort of thing was a bit of a norm, actually.
I know.
So you always say this, say something like this, and then it's like the next year it's broken.
It's true.
We'll never drive for a non-British team. Yeah. Next season is in a Maserati.
It's in a Maserati. Yeah, maybe I should do more research before I come out with these statements.
No. I like your prophecies. I like the nature. I like the path. It's entertaining.
Yeah.
So we're up to the second to last race, the Italian Grand Prix. Championship already decided. September 5, 80 laps, 20 drivers. And this race is special.
Yes. And what was... Oh, yes, it is special. I thought you were going to say the grid formation, Louis, or did you already say that? Did I?
No, I can say it now. 3 by 3 by 3.
So, yes, among the spectators at this race was a 14-year-old future Indy 500 and Formula One world champion, Mario Andretti.
Yeah. Let's hope his name becomes
That
big
is
enough to get
wild.
Formula One's respect. Will his name become big enough to get their respect?
Yeah, don't even
Yeah.
talk about it. But anyway.
Yeah. This is Feb 2024. We're all recovering from the thing we don't talk about. Linked to IndyCar, not really, but yes. So with the championship wrapped, there was a flurry of activity 2 days prior to the race, with both Fangio and Gonzalez recording unofficial lap times of under 2 minutes at the infamous Monza circuit, which is quite an achievement. In official practice, Fangio set an awesome time of 1 minute 59.0, Ascari 1 minute 59.2, and Moss on the front row again, 1 minute 59.3. So that's pretty awesome. The top three drivers split by 0.3.
Is Ascari in the Maserati still? Or?
No.
You say?
He's driving a Ferrari.
No way.
He's having a one-off drive. Sick of waiting. He was. This is the second to last race of the season. He's waited all year for this Lancia. He's seen the defense of his championships slip through his fingers.
Oh, so this season then he's either missed races, driven for Maserati and Ferrari, but not his actual contracted team, Lancia.
I wonder if he. Let me see if he makes his Lancia debut. I won't look. We'll just see. No, you do it, Rosa. Say he would never drive the Lancia in 54.
I think I'll hold my powder dry on that one.
Okay, let's see how we go. So on race day, so these are versatile drivers. These are very different cars. You know, he's driving a different car to a Maserati.
Yes.
So on race day, it was Kling who charged from fourth on the grid to first, and he led Fangio, Ascari, Gonzalez, and Moss. Kling held that lead until lap 4 and only lost it when he went wide on one of the corners. That one error meant he slipped back to 5th place, an indicator of how close the racing was to this point. Which shows also that he didn't pull away, just by the way. So by lap 7, I mean, any other drivers, they pull a lead, you know, they're good, you know. Anyway, So by lap 7, Ascari had moved into the lead and, oh, wow, and for a few laps started to pull away. So by quarter distance, that's what they do. Kling, watch and learn. So by quarter distance, i.e. lap 20, Fangio had reduced the lead down to about a second, with the rest of the field starting to spread out, with Moss sitting in third.
Wow, this is pretty close, given that we've had a couple of processions to date. So that's good.
Yeah, we have. Yeah. So Gonzalez, who retired on lap 17, had taken over Maggioli's Ferrari and started a charge from way back. By lap 37, he was actually up to 8th place, so not bad. By about this time, Fangio had taken the lead from Ascari. However, there was more excitement up front, as Moss and Villaraci had been closing in on the leading pair of Fangio and Moss. So much so that on lap 40, Villaraci passed Moss for third, then Fangio for second, as Ascari was back in front. Just when it looked like Villaraci was going to make a pass on Ascari, Villaraci's Maserati... Oh, so Villaraci was still in the Maserati. It was just Ascari that went to the Ferrari. Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. So Villaraci in the Maserati had a clutch issue and he was out, which was crushing for him because he was really giving the crowd something to cheer for. He was giving us the action, you know?
Yeah.
So it was Moss who then took on the charge, and he responded by taking the lead on lap 45.
I've now lost track how many lead changes there have been this race. Pretty close.
Yeah, it's been pretty awesome. So it's not over. Ascari led again on lap 47, so that's 2 laps later. But on lap 49, his Ferrari dropped a valve, so Moss took the lead again on lap 68. With the leaders taking turns leading and retiring, it enabled Hawthorne in the Ferrari to move up to 3rd place. In the meantime, Gonzalez had continued his charge and was up to 5th by lap 59.
So he took a car over and was essentially at the back of the grid.
Yeah, and he's pulled himself back up into the... Not to win, but right up there, you know?
No, 5th. Yeah, that's pretty good.
But what Gonzalez did next, I've not read before. He handed the car back to Maggioli, as a loose seat frame was causing excessive heat in the cockpit.
Wow. That does not sound like someone who's an F1 driver. But maybe
I
he was
know.
like supremely uncomfortable. Like, we don't know, but still,
Let's give him credit. He recognised Hawthorn's car had exhaust fume issues, so he knows when things are not right, and he does something about it. You know, yeah. So back at the front on lap 68, it was Moss's turn to face pain as he built up a 20-second lead, and he was cruising. Remember, he's never won a race. Unfortunately, he had to pit for more oil, by which time Fangio swept by into the lead. Moss carried on and even ended up pushing his car over the line to be classified in 10th place, 9 laps behind.
Wow.
Yeah, so Hawthorn finished the distance second, 1 lap behind, and Gonzalez Maggioli, came third. An impressive triple driver change and getting third.
Yes.
So that's pretty special to have 2 driver changes and still get on the podium.
Yes, still getting third. Yes.
Yeah.
Right, so with 1 race to go, Fangio's on 42 because he can't amass any more points because he's had his 5 races. Gonzalez on 25 and 1/7. Trintignant on 17. Hawthorn on 16.64 and Kling on 10.
Okay, so now we're up to the final race of the season, the Spanish Grand Prix, 24th of October. It's an 80-lap race with 21 drivers and a 4x3x4x3 grid formation. Guess what, Rosa?
What?
Finally, the Lancia team make their debut now.
Wow, just in time. The last race of the season. Unbelievable. But you have to say that Fangio's move to Mercedes was much more successful than Ascari's move to Lancia.
Oh, it's like polar opposites.
Yeah. A lot of people call Ascari's move to Lancia as one of the biggest mistakes in an F1 career. So
I can think of others that come later.
So far.
this one does take the cake, because when I think of these other drivers that made moves to teams, can I say it? It's in the 70s.
Yeah,
It's a long time away, right? Emerson Fittipaldi was at the time the world's youngest double world champion. He won 72, 74, and he joined his brother's Kopasuka team, and it was just it was like he basically, for the next 8 years, he just did nothing. He got a couple of podiums. That was it. But he became a backmarker, and it was depressing.
Never work with children and
Ascari,
family.
He didn't have a car.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Ascari wins.
Huh?
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least.
I mean, I think there's a couple of Alonso decisions that are not good for Alonso later.
Yeah,
but
true.
This, I think this is, I mean, he didn't have a car. He couldn't even drive.
Yeah, he had a car.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the McLaren?
Yes,
okay.
I am.
We're talking, for those of you that don't know, McLaren 2017 backwards, 17, 16, 15?
Yes, 15.
Was that when he did? Because it was in Ferrari up to 2014?
Yes.
15, 16, 17, I think.
Yes.
It's hard to know exactly, but we're around the mark for those. We don't need to be corrected.
We'll get there. We'll get there eventually.
So anyway, yeah. So Ascari and Villaresi were leading the new Lancia team, making their debut in the last race. And a statement they made was Ascari was the fastest in practice, 2 minutes 18.1, a second clear of Fangio in the Merc. Hawthorn was third in the Ferrari and Shell fourth in the Maserati. So that's 4 different manufacturers on the front row. That's pretty impressive, isn't it? So, and Villaresi in the other Lancia was actually fifth.
Hey.
So of note in practice, was that Collins actually put his van wall into some trees, which damaged his car beyond repair. So not a good start for Collins in the van wall team.
Safety trees, Luigi? I'm guessing not. When's the last time an F1 car hit trees? Actually, I think it happens again.
They don't talk about that.
I actually think it happens again in the 70s. I think it does. But still, not good.
I would go so far as to say that I think that's poor journalism that we haven't read this before.
Surely.
Surely.
Especially in the, what was it? The green, what was it? The green ring of death. What did...
Oh, of course, that would have been surrounded by trees. Trees, ditches, cliffs, you name it, right? Safety cliffs. The safety cliff was basically, if you go off it, we guarantee you a quick death, so it's not going to be slow and painful.
You don't hit anything except the ground when you land.
Yeah, that's right. So at race start, with Ascari getting pole with the Lancia, which is pretty amazing, it was actually Shell who jumped into the lead. And he was followed by Hawthorn, Ascari, and the Ferraris of Trintignant, who had jumped up from the third row in 8th up to 3rd place. By lap 3, Shell was passed by Ascari, and Ascari duly pulled away with force. So Ascari must have had pent-up competitiveness in him.
Finally, in his...
By lap 9, and he wasn't retiring in the first lap. By lap 9, he was nearly 10 seconds ahead, and then he was forced to retire with a slipping clutch.
Oh my gosh. This is such a wasted season for Ascari. And there were so many technical problems with cars back then. Like, how many clutches have we heard slip? And it's just unbelievable. I guess Lancia was a new car.
Big ends going.
Yeah. Big ends. The big end. But I guess he was in a new car. I wonder how much testing they had in it. Probably not much.
So Shell back in the lead, but it was close. So by lap 24, Shell still in front, with the Ferrari duo of Trintignant and Hawthorn staying close behind. And these three drivers really tussled and passed and repassed one another regularly.
It's good. Good for the last race of the season. Good close racing.
Pity we didn't see Lancia in it. I would love to have seen what that Lancia was capable of, By lap 29, Shell had overdone it. I mean, let's face it, I think he was a little bit out of his league. He was actually in the lead. The mere fact he got mentioned by us, that's his
claim to
credit,
fame.
Right?
He made it to our podcast.
So he fell back. Yeah, and that's special, He fell back to 4th behind Fangio, and then he retires shortly after due to damaged gearbox. So a bit of a pity for him. Lap 48, Trintignant retired also, leaving Hawthorn over 20 seconds ahead of Fangio and Musso in the Maserati in 3rd. With 3/4 of the race run, a sudden wind blew dust and down the main straight, and this impacted Fangio as he was being sprayed with oil from his engine, which was running hot because the radiator was partially blocked by, of all things, a newspaper.
Wow. So he's actually now being tarred and feathered, except with oil and dust, by his own car. How uncomfortable. And you got to remember that he didn't have no visor. I don't know, is he wearing a visor? Maybe goggles.
Had he ripped it off? Did he rip it off for the whole year?
Right. Oh.
He doesn't want any of these steaming things in his face. So Musso moved up to 2nd, and Fangio managed to somehow keep going despite being soaked in hot oil, which is pretty impressive. He was a real tough guy, wasn't he?
Professional, man.
But this was a bit of a non-event race, to be honest, which is why we're not talking much more about it. The final result is that Hawthorn actually manages to win, over 1 minute ahead of Musso and Fangio in 3rd. And only 9 drivers were classified, with only 5 on the same lap on this race.
Okay, so this actually is going to be the last major race held at this Spanish street circuit. I'm not going to let too much out, but the events of 1955 mean that safety regulations are tightened, and this was a very close spectator-lined street circuit of Barcelona, and so it's been abandoned and hasn't been used since 1954. Yeah,
interesting.
Yep. Since to today.
2024.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
So the final World Driver Championship standings, Fangio takes out the title, driving for 2 teams, Maserati and Mercedes, on 42 points. Gonzalez came in 2nd in the Ferrari on 25th, and the important 7th. Hawthorn came third in a Ferrari on 24 points and 9/14 or 24.64. Trintignant fourth on 17 and Kling in the other Mercedes on 12.
Trintignant did well. He held on to fourth.
Yeah.
So final comments of 54?
Well, there were a few firsts. Yeah, well, there were a few firsts here this year. Like we said, Fangio driving for two teams and winning the championship. Sadly, the fatality of Marimon during an F1 race. Yeah. First championship races for Mercedes and Lancia.
Lancia
they just make it in.
Got pole position.
Yep. And just Mercedes just killed it, didn't they? They killed it this season, but things won't go so smooth for them, as we'll find out. And a really bad decision by Ascari joining Lancia. Like, he had 4 non-starts, 4 retirements, and only 1 race in the Lancia. That is
pretty disappointing. Yeah, I concede. It was the worst decision.
Yeah, it has to be.
Think of. It beats Fittipaldi's.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least his. If there's one positive, I don't know. Fittipaldi's was a slow and painful multi-year disappointment, whereas Ascari's was brutal, fast and hard. Yeah. I don't know which one I prefer. I don't know. I think I prefer the fast and hard than the 8-year prolonged torture.
And I mean, I guess, and look,
let me digest that.
Yes. And Fangio, I mean, he took out his second world title and he's like absolutely blitzed his teammate by 30 points. So, in equal cars, I know he drove the Maserati for a couple of races, but Kling just couldn't get anywhere near him. So, yeah.
Yeah. And where are the rest of the Maseratis? Like I told you, they didn't feature and they don't.
They're all nobodies,
So, yeah.
So, interesting season.
It is. So I look forward to 1955.
Yes, can't wait.
Okay.
See you then. Bye.
Bye, Rosa.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
We have a Patreon.
Yay, we're a professional podcast now. So it means a lot to us if you are able to support the F1 Time Portal podcast.
For a small monthly fee, you not only get ad-free podcast content, you will also receive special episodes that are exclusively uploaded for our Patreon financial supporters.
We promise at least 2 additional exclusive episodes each month aligned to the decade we are up to in the show.
And you will also be able to make suggestions about any special episodes you may want us to research and present. We can't promise that we can do all of them, but we will consider them.
So, if that sounds like an entertainment bargain to you, go and sign up at patreon.com/F1 Time Portal today.
If you're enjoying our podcast, please tell your friends and non-F1 friends alike.
Yeah, and don't forget to rate us 5 stars or whatever highest is available on the podcast platform that you use.
We have a range of social media handles for you to connect with fellow listeners, so look up F1 Time Portal on all the usual platforms.
Or visit us at www.f1timeportal.com or email us at f1timeportal@gmail.com.
We would like to give credit to our primary reference materials, a series of books called Grand Prix by Mike Lang.
We also use many other written and digital references, which are in our show notes.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you.